Today I want to show you how to make a quick pie chart in Godot using only like a few control nodes and like 50 lines of script, or 40. So as you can see, we have a blank project here, and we're first going to start by setting the base node for the pie chart, which is going to be a texture rect, which is going to make sense in a few minutes. We're just going to name it pie chart and save it as its own thing. Then we can basically already get going. It's only one function really, and I'm gonna call it set from counts. And what this function is gonna do is that we're gonna give in a dictionary with some keys. We're gonna assume that they're strings, and they have some integers or floats as their associated values, and we have an optional argument for the colors, but we can also just leave it empty, like if we don't specify it. As for what we're gonna do with this, first we're gonna create a second scene actually that's gonna be the individual slices of the pie chart, because Godot does have native support for that with a texture progress bar, which is a bit confusing in naming, but if you go up to the fill mode, you can see it has clockwise enabled. We also have to enable 9-patch stretch down here. And then we also have to go down a bit and set a texture, obviously. For this, for demonstration purposes, I just have this laying around that I keep shuffling around on my projects. It's called whitepixel.png. It is a 1x1 texture of a white pixel, and that's enough for this one. Will then allow us to play around with the value, and as you can see, if we go up to like 25 as a value, like 25% in this case because it goes up to 100, we can see that the thing is scaled directly. This is going to be our individual pie slices, and just for convenience, we're also going to set the pivot offset in ratio to 0.5. Like we're using 4.7. If you're on previous versions of Godot, then you don't have access to pivot offset ratio as a property, and you have to like go by pixels in pivot offset, but we're using 4.7 just for your interest. And we're gonna save this as pie slice. And now back in our pie chart, first we're gonna do like a pass to clear all the previous children. I'm gonna delete them. And then we have to wait a frame. This is technically, or like theoretically, it shouldn't be necessary, but this is an engine bug. Like Godot will crash if you leave out this line of code currently in the 4.7 release. I haven't upgraded to one of the maintenance releases yet. Maybe it's fixed there. Then we're gonna continue writing code. So how this is gonna work is that for each segment of our pie chart, we will create one new pie slice. However, we're gonna make our lives a bit simpler, and we're not gonna do fancy angle math to try and figure out which slices of the pie should actually be populated. We're just gonna do them layer by layer and then keep the differential between the different slices. You're gonna see what I mean, not differential, difference. So first we're gonna calculate the total. Right, this will just iterate over all the different counts that look like. This is what counts per key looks like. And then we're gonna keep track of another variable called the count used so far. And now it's time to actually create all the different slices of the pie. And then for actually filling up that slice of the pie, we're gonna calculate the proportion. And as you can see here, we're keeping track of the count used so far as well, like just so we don't forget to increment it, we can already put it at the bottom of the loop. And count in this context, in this scope, is just the individual count for the individual key that we're assigning. And we're dividing that by the total to get like the percentage. Now it's time to create the slice. One thing to note here is that since we're incrementing all of this, the larger slices, if we just use add child, will be on top of the smaller children, on top of the smaller children in the tree order. So we have to move our new slice to the bottom of the pie chart, like so. Then we need to give the slice its value, which would be the proportion times 100. Just for added precision, we can also go back into the pie slice, which you can also rename if we're feeling like it. And down in the step, we can just like use a smaller step, which will aid with some resolution stuff at like smaller scales. And then, since right now the pie slices would just be plain white, like this, and you wouldn't be able to actually differentiate between the different values, and we're gonna tint them. These nodes, the texture progress bars, they do come with their own tint property that we're gonna use. It doesn't really matter if we use that or the canvas item modulate that they inherit from, but this is like cleaner, and it's it's what you're supposed to use. And here we are getting the color from the other dictionary that we're passing in, but maybe we also just like don't really care about the colors, or if we just forget or don't have any colors set at that point because we're not sure what we want to visualize or how we want to visualize it, we can also just generate a random color like so. Right, like this generates a random color with random values in the RG and B proportions or slots. This is already it, basically. There's one last thing that I want to add here, which is that we set the expand mode to fit with proportional. This just makes it look the nicest. This is another engine bug thingy where if you set it from here in some scene arrangements, that can also crash your scene. So we're using code for it. I'm not sure what's happening here, actually, by the way. Like, this is a new regression, but whatever. But this is the entire code, basically. And just for demonstration purposes, we can now create our little scene. Add a little pie chart. And then ready, we can go pie chart set from counts. And if we run this now, then you can see the random colors generated are really difficult to discern. But there you go. And here we can also see the reason why we're using a texture rect. Because right now it's not much of a pie chart on account of it being square. That is why we're using the pie chart as a texture rect. Here's something that I also want to add to the project is this circle mask. It is a really simple, like, you can create this in any image editor that has transparency support. It is literally just a white circle that fits into the frame. And if you go into the pie chart and set the visibility clip children property to clip only, and then give it the circle mask texture, and then you run it again, then you can see we actually have the a circle shape. And if we were to feel so inclined, we could also go into our second argument. Right, and then we just set some colors, some nice pink, some white, some blue. And there you go. One thing that we can also quickly modify is that if we make this a bit bigger, right, then suddenly we get the segments like cut off really weirdly. That's because they don't scale with their parent pie chart. So all we have to do in pie slice is go up to the anchor controls and select full rect. And now if we go back to test and we give it like some size, I don't know, 400 by 400. And now it is big and it scales correctly. Yay! And this is how you can create pie charts in Godot in, I don't know, 5 minutes or so. I hope this is useful to you, and see you next time. Bye.